Our first guest tonight says the budget proposal doesn't go far enough to stop Washington's runaway spending and the buy now, pay later mentality that has our nation's capital in its grip. Joining us is Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming. He's Republican Policy Committee Chairman, member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, great to have you with us. Your opposition to the Ryan Murray or Murray-Ryan budget, I think surprises some people. First, why are you going to vote against it? And secondly, are there enough votes in the Senate to move it through?
I'm going to vote against it because I think it does spend too much. It's more Washington wasteful spending. It's kind of like the old, the Wimpy from Popeye. I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. It puts off the spending cuts, but it spends the money now. I do think that there will be the 60 votes for cloture and that will ultimately pass the Senate this week. But I was home in Wyoming over the weekend talking to folks who have to live within their budgets, live within their means, and they just have concerns with the amount of spending that's going on. And this budget essentially breaks the caps. You and I have talked before about the value of the sequester, and it actually resulted in less spending, and I think we should have stuck with that.
It actually worked. Going to the issue here, though, there is some good. If you get away just from the plain numbers, and I think you and I could agree that the numbers are frankly at the margin, they're small and perhaps so small as to be insignificant. But what is significant is getting back to regular order, looking at a number for a budget for 2 fiscal years instead of going from continuing resolution to continuing resolution. That surely has to thrill you.
Well, I think it is important to have budgeting and certainty. Of course, when a family does their budgeting, they have to do it in realistic numbers, things that they think is what it's going to really be like over that 2-year period of time. So I'm encouraged by the fact that there is a budget for that period of time. I certainly wish it were at a lower number.
Let's turn to a Washington Post report now accusing the administration again of lying, manipulating, frankly, governance for the purpose of the president's political fortunes. He lied, in point of fact, to get Obamacare passed. It appears he lied also during the campaign about Obamacare. It turns out now, according to the Washington Post, and if we could put this up, that the report saying internal reviews of proposed regulatory changes in the administration, quote, took longer in 2011 and 2012 because of concerns about the agencies issuing costly or controversial rules prior to the November 2012 election. Specifically, talking about workplace rules, talking about Obamacare, and talking about implementing rules and regulations by the Environmental Protection Agency, costly, controversial, and they pushed them aside in order to have a clear track during the election. Your reaction?
Well, it's not a surprise. I think this has been one of the most politically manipulative administrations in history. They delayed so many of these rules because they knew they were going to be very liberal and opposed by the American people. And as a result, they said, let's wait till after the election. Well, part of the debacle of the website of the health care law has been just the fact that they said, hey, we're not going to go after any of those things until after the election because they didn't want to fess up and be honest with the American people. And you talk about presidential honesty. I think you saw that PolitiFact gave President Obama the lie of the year for his statement about if you like your health insurance, you could keep your health insurance. The majority of Americans now believe the president is not trustworthy. And, when you lose that trust, whether it's a patient and a doctor or a population and their president, it is very hard to regain, Lou.
Later here in the broadcast, we're not only going to go through the number one lie, which is not only put forward by PolitiFact, but Washington Post itself and a number of other organizations. If you want to keep your plan, you can. We're going to go through the top 5 lies, and 60% of them, frankly, brought to you by this administration and this president. So we're going to be focusing on that. I also want to take up with you legislation that you plan to introduce with Senator Lamar Alexander to give people proper notice, the purpose of which is to give people proper notice of an increase in a premium. How soon will you do that? How effective do you think it will be? given the train wreck that is Obamacare?
Well, people need to be able to plan, and this is called the Premium Disclosure Act, so that the administration can't hide what insurance premiums are going to be next year. You know, the administration unilaterally and the president decided to push off the renewal period next year for insurance premiums until after the election. Well, this was another deliberately deceptive ploy by the administration. Senator Enzi, Senator Alexander, and I have this legislation. We're introducing it this week to say, oh no, the open period for enrollment is October 15th, and people need to know a full month in advance what their premiums are going to be so they can budget and they can plan, instead of letting the president hide the numbers until after the 2014 elections, because people across the country know, Lou, that their premiums are going up. They think they're paying more, getting less under this health care law. They know that the website is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, unfortunately, in point of fact, they are paying more and getting less, and certainly not at all what they were promised by this president and his administration over the course of more than 4 years. Senator, always good to talk with you. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Lou.
Senator John Barrasso.